Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Whiskey Vault.
Welcome to the Whiskey
I'm
Vault.
Rex, he's Daniel. These are...
Now-
Wait, where's the...
Well, because it's a giant box and I have to take it out of the giant box. So here's a little preface.
Yep.
The preface is, now we're through the era. Most people think, oh, whiskey is whiskey. But in most of written history, prior to the mid-1800s, when they said whiskey, they meant moonshine, the things we've been drinking for the last week.
Okay.
Right? It's only in the relative 1800s, mid-1800s, that aged whiskey started to become a thing. Now, however, I will say, there are records in the late 1700s of people saying, I've got 2-year-old whiskey for sale, I've got 3. So they were talking about age back then.
Okay.
But it wasn't as common, like a guaranteed you're going to have aged whiskey,
Right.
until the 1800s.
Right.
In the early 1800s, late 1700s.
Right.
And this is also around the time when the English were trying to tax the Scottish and the Irish out of existence into submission. And around this time, you had the Isle of Arran.
Said so many things.
Well, it doesn't matter. You don't need to have listened. They were listening.
So many things.
Around this time, you had the Isle of Arran. The Isle of Arran lives in the just south of the lowland line,
Yeah.
in between Campbelltown, where Springbank is,
Yes.
and the lowlands,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And its primary, at the time, its primary value was that it had easy access from all these parts of Scotland, and then easy access by boat to England.
Mm-hmm.
Which means while it was a hotbed of illicit distillation activity.
You had me at hotbed.
Right? Now, the last distillery in Arran closed in 1837.
Come on.
1837.
Come on, 1837.
Okay, hang on.
56.4% alcohol.
No, you're going to appreciate this because I'm going to tell you what's in it in just a second.
How
Ready?
old is it?
We don't know. This is a no-age statement whiskey. They relaunched in the 90s. They started building up a new distillery. They released and by the way, Arran malt is almost always an unpeated malt. So they're making island whiskey with unpeated malt. However, this is not unpeated.
Okay.
Did that get you a little weird? It's like, no, there's no way. That's smoky.
It's not overwhelming. It's not Octomore with peat, but...
This is the first in a series of 3. This is a mix of unpeated, mildly peated, and heavily peated barley.
Okay.
All 3. And then it's aged in both bourbon and port casks.
So, are they all 3 combined in the same proportions? Because you could have just done a medium amount of peat.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
They're combined according to what they thought mattered.
All right.
And then some are aged in port barrels, and some are port pipes, and some are aged in bourbon barrels. And then they're blending those together. This is maybe one of my favorite Arrans that they've ever released right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Nah, you're never going to be able to get this anymore. So we're also going to try the Arran 10, which you definitely can get.
Oh, yeah. So, that's going to be an unpeated.
Yes.
Okay. So, we'll see if we can find...
And I also have the Machrie Moor, the peated Arran. You want to try that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm interested...
I'm okay with the exploration of Arran.
I'm curious to see if we can find the nature of Arran in this peated thing, in the unpeated thing.
Yeah.
So we can kind of separate, mentally get the reference point. What elements are the peaty bits bringing, and what elements is just the base Arran bringing?
I will tell you that from the exploration of Arran unpeated, the base is very floral and light fruit.
I can't really take your word for that.
Peach and apricot. No.
We gotta dive in.
But I want you to try to look for it past the peat before I pour you the original. Just keep in mind that if you're building on a base, like you said, the bones, you're building on a base of floral
Yeah.
and honey and this nice, really pretty light spirit. And then on top of that, you're layering the smoke and the port cask finish.
So I'm very sympathetic to people who are new to peat and they're trying to find subtlety, because that smokiness, it does come at you as just a wall of big flavor. And there's a certain level of acclimation that needs to happen for people that are drinking smoky whiskeys to get so accustomed to that big, loud layer of smokiness. All right, so we've got the Arran.
Okay, so the Arran 10, let's pour that. Because I want to show you what they do when they're not overwhelmed with smoke. Now,
does that Arran have an age statement?
10, Arran 10.
Okay.
This is 10 years old.
But does it have an age statement?
I got really confused there for a second.
Yeah, the space sides can be really tricky.
Okay, so what's the difference for you? Can you find the same route, the same way we did with new make into the aged?
So, the at first blush, the subtlety of the Arran 10 compared to the peated thing, you do have to go hunting.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like whatever element of the tin you're going to find in the peated version, it's not like it's swinging hard and fast and able to keep up with peat. You got to go hunting for, there's the maltiness, a little bit of fruitiness, some dark fruit.
What's funny is when I first started buying Arran,
Maybe some jam.
all that I owned was Machrie, Moor, and the Smugglers series because people had brought them. And so I thought Arran was this like super smoky whiskey.
I'm getting like
for a while. And then I finally went and said, I'm going to try the other Arrans. And I was very surprised. At a whole different world.
salted grape jam on the nose.
Yes. On the tin. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, that's not
Isn't that cool?
That's
a great whiskey.
46%.
They're doing such a good job.
Very, very drinkable.
Yeah.
It's sweet, but not overwhelmingly sweet. If anything, and it's probably because I'm fresh off the heels of the peated thing here. If anything, I wish, coming off the heels of the peated thing, I wish there was a little bit more intensity of flavor coming out of the tin.
Yeah, well, because you started with this, which is just in your face.
For the third time.
Okay, well, how about this?
The third time.
How about this?
Qualifying.
Here's the Machrie Moor, which is their peated Arran.
Okay.
It's cask strength, so weighed in slowly, 58.2%.
Okay, so I'm comparing the Machrie Moor to this.
Which well you should.
They are different. This is peatier, earthier. The Machrie Moor is still peaty, but you get some more earthiness and maltiness coming through.
You know why? This smells more like this.
Yeah.
But with
Like the
smoke.
tin. Like the Machrie Moor smells more like the tin.
I think this, because of the port pipes blending into it, adds all these fruity notes that are dark fruit. That are not in the...
I can tell the Machrie Moor from the tin. I can tell they're related. I am hard pressed to find real parallels, obvious parallels with
the Smugglers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Smugglers is definitely more a characteristic of a truly peated whiskey with a slight sweetness. Think of it like when you get a really peated Bunnahabhain that also has sherry cask.
Well, you get
this complex burnt charred sweetness.
You're getting towards, like the Ardbeg and the Lafroig territory with that level of peatness.
Yeah.
All right.
So you want to know your cool history thing? So one of the things that I learned when studying whiskey history was, and this is true I think of all humans, you study one category, Scottish and Irish history,
right?
And you see all these dates,
yeah,
and it seems like it lives in a vacuum. And then you study bourbon, and you see all these dates, and it lives in its own vacuum.
Right.
And it's not until you start looking at the same dates on two different storylines,
right,
and how they line up, and what was happening over here and what was happening over here, that you realize the world impact of how things were going in the world at a certain time.
Yeah.
And so one of my favorite things to do is anytime I find an interesting date in Scottish history, whiskey history, I take that date and I go over to the U.S. and I go, what was happening in whiskey in Kentucky during that same year?
Right on.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, that to me ties it all together and makes it really cool in my head. 1837 was when the last Arran distillery closed before the one currently making whiskey.
Right.
Last legal distillery. You know what happened in 1837 in Kentucky?
What's that?
The Lincoln County process had just been invented.
So
for Tennessee whiskey.
This is the Tennessee whiskey. The
Tennessee whiskey.
Charcoal filtering.
And then in Kentucky, Dr. James Crow, Old Crow, starts working for Oscar Pepper Distillery.
There's one thing that is coming out.
And Dr. James Crow, probably in that era, more than any other single human being, changed the process of bourbon making into an intentional scientific process as opposed to just a sort of art form.
Okay.
Right? And that was all happening right when this distillery closed. Well, the original Arran distillery on Arran closed, our last legal one. And
I'm going to do you a favor. If your body survives the illegitimate Daniel month.
How would my body not survive? Crap.
I feel like you have so much information that you just want to
It's just in my head, yeah.
But in typical episodes, we're limited to talking about what's in the bottle, and we have to give tasting notes, and we have to give them in a compact amount of time. But you can't get too deep down the path of historical stuff because there's a balancing act that needs to happen. But I think there's some topics where you need like almost like a video essay to get through all of the shit, all the context that you want to give. So I think we could probably in the future do some extra episodes on the tribe.
On the tribe side?
On the tribe
It's just
channel.
Daniel tells weird history stories?
No, I don't want. I'm not going to give you that much leeway.
Is it drunk history?
I'm not going to give you that much leeway because you're going to make it boring and long-winded and tedious and bullshit. I do
Only
have,
for people with a 4th grade attention span.
No, eat it. There's a way to go through this information in an interesting way, and we can do this in an interesting way. But we're going to have to not be, hey, Daniel, just sit down and tell us about. No, there's going to be pre-production. There's going to be planning, so we can go through segments and have visual parallels.
Can I have like a stunt double?
Yeah.
And can I have a what do you call the stand-in who does all the lighting?
Yes, that.
Yeah. Can I have like those kind of? Can I sit in my trailer?
Sure. So I will tell you this.
I'm gonna rent a cigar trailer.
My biggest concern with doing like a video essay type of format is I think I have spoiled you so thoroughly with how productions happen, right? because you know it's like Daniel shows up, right? Cool, let's do this, and we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna talk about. That's not the way most videos are put together.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like planning about here's gonna be the shot and the location.
Then you're gonna stand here, and then you're gonna talk about this
Then
thing.
you talk about this thing, and then we're gonna get into this topic. And it's gonna segue to this thing. You've never had to do that.
No, I have, just not with the whiskey channels. I did that in the music industry. We do the same thing with music videos. It's highly choreographed.
No, okay, all right. So you did some videos back when you were like,
Yeah, it's
11.
like, hey, when you do that jump off the thing, you need to land here because, and no, cut. You jumped and you landed 3 feet to the left. We got to start over.
God, it's $100,000 lost.
Yeah.
So I'll see if I can get you dialed in and make.
I can do all those things.
You can do all these things.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
All right. So video essays. And I'm gonna here's the compromise though. I'm gonna choose the topics.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay, I'm gonna choose the topics.
No, I think that will probably result in significantly better videos. The way, like, Bring the Dark album was significantly better because I didn't get to choose the songs. Right?
Desensitized to smoke asks, like
Yes.
1,000 ninjas in the Whiskey Tribe subreddit. Hey, you magnificent bastards! I've been building my collection based off intensifying smoke levels.
Yes.
That's a dangerous game, my friend.
Yeah.
After a couple of drams of Lefroy spread across several days, I found myself having trouble detecting the smoke in the finish, which I first experienced as columns of smoke from the first dram. I tried to go back to Lagavulin and Talisker, and I couldn't get the nuanced smoke that I got from them before.
Yeah.
It's in place. All I got was the oak notes. Am I desensitized to smoke? Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Will
It's a
my
thing.
taste buds go back to normal if I stay off peated whiskeys for a while?
Yes, they will.
Maybe go only for sweeter Highland Space. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
It's one of the benefits of doing the
It's a
dry
thing.
week.
I will tell you, it regularly happens to me that. So here's when I started to appreciate peated whiskeys more. When I started exploring bourbon. Mm-hmm. When I got into bourbon, which has none of the same flavor profiles,
Yeah.
I would travel doing all these studies on bourbon, and then I would come back to any scotch that had peat, and I would go, "Oh crap, this is really
Yeah.
beautiful." Like, so people used to tell me that Highland Park 12 was smoky, and I'm like, you're smoking crack. That's not. There's no way it's smoky. That's a all sherry cask. And then I left it for a while, and I came back, and I went, you know what? You're right. It is a little bit smoky with the sherry cask.
So whenever I'm, several days off of a smoky whiskey,
Mm-hmm.
when I come to the Highland Park 12, it almost presents as almost like a sulfur note.
Yes,
In the smoke.
It absolutely.
Now,
does, yeah.
so yes, whenever you drink a certain kind of whiskey so often, you do get acclimated to a lot of the nuances there. But good news is, if you ever switch gears and head back to the sweeter stuff, your Space Sides and your Irish and what have you, because you've been in smoked territory and neglecting a lot of like the really heavy sweet elements, you are able to have a fresh approach to the sweeter whiskeys and start picking out nuances there. But again,
Yeah.
if people just live in that sweet territory, then they start to lose that complexity because they just get so accustomed to it. But then they're going to be fresh for smoke. So we very much recommend like kind of exploring whiskeys and trying out different categories and not just camping out on one or two brands forever.
I agree.
All right.
Okay, now I will tell you, the Arran 10 is every bit as subtle and nuanced as any good famous Space Side distillery.
Yeah.
But it has a little bit of the salty brine of a good island whiskey.
Yeah.
Right, in the direction of like, or on the coast, like Oban. If you can get Machrie Moor and you like peat, Do it.
Yeah, that Aaron's super good. Here's to fighting, stealing, and drinking.
If you fight, may you fight for a friend.
If you steal, may you steal a lover's heart.
And if you drink, may you drink with us.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us in the Whiskey Vault. Don't forget to throw in a like, hit that subscribe button on the bottom right, and drop a question or comment down below.